everyone. I'm Cheryl Carr, your work doctor, and this is the early edition of the Achieve with Dr. C broadcast. So glad you're joining me. This may throw a lot of people off because for the last year, I have been on at 10 a.m. But I am shifting to 9 a.m., maybe even earlier, because I'm starting a new engagement in my work life that's going to require my time differently. So, thank you again for joining me. And if you're not a follower on Facebook, please make sure you go and follow me so that you can get advance notice and know all these changes and things that are going on with Dr. Cheryl Carr. And then also, if you're not a subscriber on YouTube, which is where the majority of my rebroadcast viewers are, but you don't click that subscribe button, and I need you to do that for me, okay? Can you subscribe so you can make sure you get the notifications and you know when I'm on, and you can go back and watch all your favorite broadcasts, look at my guests, and learn all the things that we are teaching with post-traumatic growth, post-pandemic recovery. And right now, the month of October, we've been talking about presumptions and assumptions. And we've been trying to progress our thinking away from being assumptive. And it's a progress with post-traumatic growth. There's a lot of assuming and assumptions and assumptive thinking in society right now. And that's what we need to avoid. So I want to teach you something today because this is all about your mindset, your thinking, your ability to think and habitually benefit yourself by the way that you think and feel. A lot of assumptive thinking and a lot of people who live a life of assuming all the time, the majority of their thinking is steeped in rejection. Rejection is something we all experience, and sometimes rejection is protection. And rejection is just when someone doesn't value, appreciate, or think enough of you to love you, to be in a relationship with you. They push you away. And a lot of us, when we have that happen to us, when someone doesn't like us, when someone doesn't want to speak to us, when someone doesn't enjoy who we are as a person, we then begin to assume everybody's that way. And that's one of the big things with assumptions. Let's talk about presumptions first, because this is a good way to habitually think. And it's a good mindset to have. When you are presumptive, you are going about, you're willing to acquire information to get you to certainty of belief about anything, about people, about what happened, circumstances, situations. You keep a willingness when you are a presumptive thinker with a presuming mindset, just like in a court of law, attorneys, everybody, our courts of law are supposed to be, they're not, but they're supposed to assume someone is innocent until they're proven guilty. When we get all the facts and information to say this person is or is not guilty. That's what being presumptive in your thinking is. You use your mind. You go about getting information. You question anything that makes you weak-willed. You learn to master your thinking. Because I submit to you, nobody else is going to do it for you. So being a presumptive thinker and learning to think presumptively is where you want to strive to get your thinking to. Because we're lazy thinkers, but your mind is always at work. Even when you sleep, your mind is awake and it's thinking. Now, assuming or assumptive thinking is different. That is an unwillingness to attach or acquire information that confronts what you want to believe. You take a blank slate, you take in information, or you hear something, or you experience rejection. And from that point forward, your thinking is all about what you're reinforcing, what you want to believe. It's a very lazy, problematic way of thinking. It's a terrible mindset to have. It also will not allow you to grow. It will not allow you to experience life to its fullest. It doesn't allow you to use your thinking skills the way you're supposed to. So, today I wanted to teach you how to unlearn. And the way I want to teach you is first with the foundation of your mindset, which we discussed pretty much the whole month of August. We talked about self-talk, how we think, how the process of thinking, the fact that the brain, this wonderful organ that we have. Good morning, my king. Welcome. The way that we think all of the time is pretty much 80% of our thinking is on autopilot. We think the way we think, we do the things we do on habit on autopilot. That's because the brain is efficient. The brain likes to acquire new information and exert its energy in acquiring the new task, doing the new thing, making sure that you have the power and the mindset to think your way through getting to someplace, especially active when there's a fight or flight incident, something that you have to survive. Because we're built for survival. We are wonderfully and fearfully made. So that's why we're on autopilot a lot. It takes your own ability to interrupt your thinking, to master yourself, to tell your brain, here's what we're going to do. And you do that by acquiring information, listening to counterpoints, point and counterpoint. You can listen to, like a lot of us go to churches where we have a preference for the way they teach and preach. What we won't do is we will not take the time to acquire that information when we listen to preaching and teaching and to do our own homework. Think for ourselves. Many of us spend our time, if I asked you, what's your certainty of belief and how did you get there? Many of us, because that's what mama said, that's what the preacher said, that's what the school said, that's, we've been taught to be worker bees and autopilot thinkers. And I'm trying to get you, by teaching you these things, to think for yourself and to avoid assuming. And right now, the way society's going, this is a skill set you must master and teach your children and teach yourself again. And one of the things we need to do is unlearn some of the things that we learned or acquired assumptive thinking around. So I'm going to give you 9. I'm going to give them to you pretty fast because, again, this is a earlier time than when I'm usually on, and I only have a short amount of time. And then once I teach you these 9 things, I think it's 9, then I will give you your homework assignment for the next broadcast, which next Monday I will be on the air different time. Maybe. I don't know. I have to look at my calendar. Okay? So let's talk about things to unlearn. I did a lot of introduction, talked to you about why we're lazy thinkers. I also talked to you about being presumptive in your thinking, what that is, what assumptive thinking is. And then we talked a lot the last few weeks about exactly what assuming is and why you should avoid it like the plague. Now, today, I want to teach you these things you need to ignore or unlearn. And this is how you actually adapt a less assumptive thinking. It takes work. This is not going to be easy. And I am doing my challenge next month. We'll start doing a challenge. I think it's only going to be a 2 or 3 day challenge. It'll be a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday morning where I'm going to intensify this teaching. And I will be giving you a journal and my next book, everything to help you continue thinking better. And we can always learn this. I still practice thinking better. I listen to Jim Quick a lot. I study the brain, how my brain works. I learn myself. I have a lot of self awareness, and I want to keep having that because you need to be an evergreen learner. You're never an expert except for with yourself. You are the expert for you. And even though I'm called an expert by society because of these sheepskins, I still stay green. I was in the classroom this weekend. I learn. So these are things you need to unlearn. Just listen to them, try them on for size, see if they work for you. Don't assume this is you. I want you to think. The first thing you need to unlearn or should unlearn is ignoring your own boundaries to please others. You have boundaries. You have things that make you feel better. You have ways of behaving and things you like to be around. You have preferences. You have things that are your boundaries. Where many of us get into trouble is we abandon our boundaries. We forsake our boundaries because we want to make other people happy. And I did a post this week that is very powerful that got me a lot of inboxes that I asked the question, when naming all the things that you love, how long would it take you to say yourself? It's a powerful question. So don't ignore your boundaries to please other people. People pleasing is a very assumptive way of living because you have to make an assumption that other person is for you. Now, I don't like being a person who doesn't believe the best in people because the Bible tells us to do that. That's how you love. But I also keep an awareness that people aren't necessarily against me, they're just for themselves. And you can only love others the best. I'm not saying it's the only way to love. I don't like that teaching because it's an absolute that isn't true. For a spiritual person that walks in the spirit, you're capable of loving people even better than you love yourself. But you start there. You can love others as you love yourself. So ignoring your boundaries to people please is dangerous. The other thing that is something you should try to unlearn, make every attempt to unlearn this, and that's making yourself smaller to fit into social situations. And what I mean by that is you have abilities and skills and talents. And I have been so guilty of this the majority of my adult life and even in my childhood. Once, I tested and supposedly genius IQ and all the stuff that, and they wanted to move me up a grade. So I had all this stuff that tried to make me think I was smarter than everyone else and that I was better and I belonged in these special schools. I got sent to a special school. I was put in gifted, talented classes. I was always set apart. And that didn't make you very popular, especially in my neighborhood. So I had to fight a lot. If you have long hair, if you were lighter skinned, I mean, all the cruel bullying stuff we do. So I learned to get along with people and to have friends, to shrink myself down, to never, especially in relationships with men. I learned not to be smarter, not to share my opinion, to draw back and make myself small. Dangerous. Unlearn that. You don't have to play small so other people feel big. Don't be arrogant, but learn to bring to the table who you are and what you bring to the table, because other people need you achieving. I said that a lot when I first started this broadcast. The world needs you achieving. The world needs your voice. The world needs what you bring to it, because there is no other you. And only you can do what you do the way you do it. So don't play small. Let me speed along here. The other thing you should unlearn: pretending like you're fine instead of asking for support. That's assuming other people don't want to support you. That's assuming that getting support from people doesn't have to be asked for. Remember when I said people aren't necessarily against you, they're just for themselves? That's because we're selfish by nature. We think selfishly. We're self-survival. We're self-preservation. We're self-reliant. And it's a humbling thing to ask people for support. This is something you must unlearn, because we need one another. We are created for healthy relationships, and we are created for community and to need one another. You're not an island by yourself. You need people. Fourth thing, believing your self-worth depends on your productivity. I had to teach, and I still teach this to people. I don't hustle anymore. I've gotten way more in my life not hustling. And when I say hustle, I just mean grinding, bowing at the altar of commercialism. I've learned to be more productive and of greater use by remembering the commandment to rest, to come and show up my best self, to rest my mind, rest my energy, pull back, restore, eat well, sleep well, nurture myself, nurture my overall well-being. Because your self-worth does not depend on what you do, it depends on who you are. So unlearn that. The other thing, societal standards of beauty and diet and culture. Unlearn societal standards. Know them, acquire that information, but then I ask you to unlearn submitting yourself to it if it doesn't serve you well. Diet and body style for society, what they value and what they say is beautiful, doesn't serve me well. I'd have to starve myself to look like the supermodels. So unlearn that. Sacrificing your voice to avoid conflict. Unlearn that. That means you keep quiet instead of sharing, when, especially with people you love and that you're in community with. Your voice can change the world. 6, not celebrating your accomplishment because others have better ones. Celebrate yourself. Clap for yourself. A lot of people are achieving great big things, and some of my doctor friends have moved way far above what I would achieve at this point in my life. But I've learned to celebrate my successes, and I've got a lot of them, and I'm so grateful. So stop comparing yourself. Seeking external validation over self-assurance. When you're a person who needs to be validated, and social media has done a number on us for making us value external validation over our own internal validation and knowledge of our own self-worth. And you can be humble and still know your worth. It's a false thing. And then the final thing is distracting from hard feelings instead of processing them. That's when you drink, smoke, sex, shop, and avoid processing your emotions. And I taught about this earlier this year, that emotions are visitors. Let them come and let them go. You don't stay somewhere. That is a sure thing, I can tell you. And I live by a 5-minute rule, or less than a 5. If it won't matter in 5 years, don't let it matter more than 5 minutes. Now, I feel stuff. People tick me off, and things that go on in society make me so sad. I've learned to stop playing strong. I hate when people call me strong now, because I'm not. I'm just a good emotional processor. And yeah, I may have some strength. I shouldn't say that. I have some strength that's been developed through hardship and humbling, I mean, humbling situations. But truthfully, y'all, I love to sit with my feelings and process them, understand what I'm really feeling. Is this rejection I'm feeling? Is this anger? Is this hunger? A lot of us are turned off in this trauma, in this pandemic. One of the survival mechanisms of the brain is to shut off your pleasure center. It shuts it off so that you just are blah, and you don't have highs and lows. You become numb. And to feel, people go through extremes just to feel or to relax or to de-stress. And they do things that don't benefit them or cause addiction or lifetime struggles. So, these are 9 things you need to unlearn. And I submit that to you for you to try on for size. I'm not demanding it, I'm asking you to try it on for size. This is your homework for the next week. First, go through the list. I'm going to post a meme that has these 9 things on there, and it will talk to you about how to do this. And I want you to unlearn them, to pick one to unlearn, to start questioning yourself, to avoid assumptions and decide, do I act like this? Is this something I'm believing, that I have a certainty of belief inside and it's making me assume things that aren't true? And how do I unlearn this for myself so my thinking can serve me better? Okay? That's the show for today. I'm Cheryl Carr, your work doctor. This is the Achieve with Dr. C broadcast. I shifted to an earlier morning. I will either be on at 8 or 9. I will try the week before to let you know when I'm going to be on and what the subject is. And I've shortened the show. It's going to be a shorter format. And then I'm going to start editing them. Remember your homework. I'll post the memes so you know these 9 things. And join me next week and look on my Facebook. Like I said, if you're not following me, you need to follow me on my Dr. Cheryl Carr Facebook page so that you get advance notice and you know when I'm on the air and you know what we'll be talking about. Okay. Thank you so much for paying attention. I hope you'll learn these things, and I hope you will begin to be a less assumptive thinker. Now, next month, we're going to have a whole different subject. I'll talk to you about that on Monday, November 1st. This weekend is my birthday. So I will be celebrating with friends and family and loved ones. I pray you all have a blessed week. Again, I'm Cheryl Carr, your work doctor. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening to the rebroadcast, please make sure you like, click, share, and enjoy. Okay. Be blessed. Bye.